Welcome to Coleman Report Live, and I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. First National Juneteenth celebration, if I got that right. Actually, it's tomorrow, but I guess SBA is off today, so good for all of you. Yeah, look at our. It looks like some banks are off as well. Lance, you look too relaxed.
You know, Bob, sitting out on the beach, wanting to do Coleman Report Live is a pretty nice gig. No, I'm excited to be out here, Bob, because we're updating the SBA Loan Closer Certification Series, and certainly I encourage everybody every bank has SBA loan closers. It's time to get them signed up so they can go through the certification series. It's all updated and exciting stuff, Bob.
Lance, real quick, so how was the experience? Last time was the first time you did it. We brought you out to Hollywood. This time we brought you out again, and just give me the contrast, the two experiences. Was this how was it?
Yeah, of course, we've done it. We did it once on site in Hollywood. It's just back when things were absolutely normal, nothing different.
Normal in Hollywood. Now that's
this experience is a little different, guys. I walked into California. Joe picks me up from the airport. It's the first day that California had reopened. So some businesses want you to wear masks. Some, didn't care whether you wore a mask or not. But it's like you had everybody in the state of California pinned up in their house, and all of a sudden somebody opened the door and said, "Go play." Lots of happy, smiling people all over Venice Beach, Santa Monica, Marina del Rey, which is the area I'm in, just loving life, and you can tell they're excited that California is reopened again. So it's a fun time to be here.
What a nice on-the-spot report, Lance. Very good.
I'm not talking a lot about the recording, Bob. The recording's been fun. It's nice to update a course that, it's time to update it and get it freshened up. But it's a really fun time to be in California, seeing all the people who live here getting back out and enjoying life.
Yeah, it's very good. Very good. And there's the course. Hey, let's get into it. How many cases of PPP fraud has your lending institution submitted to the Inspector General? Katie, why do we keep harping on this?
So we keep hearing more. There's just a lot of reports right now looking at PPP fraud and things like that. I know the OIG has been pushing for more data, and they're definitely working on going through mostly the first round of PPP. You're starting to see them slowly start to look at the second round. But we're also hearing from the GAO and things like that. Everybody's real concerned about PPP fraud, and they want to make sure they attack that issue as soon as possible.
Well, yeah, we should have broken up the poll. I'm sorry, Lance. We should have broken out the poll of 0, then 1 to 100. Katie, do you remember last time we ran this, how many people had referred? It was about 50-50, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had a decent portion. I don't recall the exact number, but I think we just asked, had you submitted anything to the OIG about fraud? And I think we had a pretty big portion of them say yes. But we didn't break it out like this, so I don't know if that was maybe one off or maybe 1 or 2 cases. Maybe it would be interesting next time we run this poll to do somewhere between that 0 to 100 and find out how many are in that category, really.
Well, one thing I think will occur, Bob, is PPP round 2 probably will have more individual cases of PPP fraud. It just will be smaller dollar amounts. So as we work through forgiveness of round 2, it'll be interesting to see how these numbers change over time, because I think you'll see more and more lenders have cases of smaller PPP fraud. In round 1, most of the lenders vetted the stuff themselves. It was bigger PPP loans, so they really crossed the T's and dotted the I's. So I think there are fewer cases and bigger dollar amounts, and in round 2, there'll be more cases and smaller dollar amounts.
Very good. Very good. What was the total SBA principal balances in fiscal year 2020 of everything. Lance, these are eye-popping numbers, whatever number you choose.
Yeah, you don't really, if you pick any one of these, it's going to be bigger than we've seen in quite some time. But 2020 was a very special year in SBA.
Yeah, I remember during the Great Recession when SBA's portfolio was pushing 50 billion, and I had an interview with, I think it was Wall Street Journal, and they said, well, what happens if all those loans fail? Isn't that a huge grind? Is that going to cause a big problem on the economy? And I made the snarky comment, look, if all $50 billion fails, the United States economy is going to have much bigger problems than our lousy little $50 billion.
Exactly right.
He goes, yeah, good point. What's the answer, Katie?
It looks like our audience was right. It's at that 835 billion.
We'll be over $1 trillion next year.
Wow.
What was the biggest issue SBA faced in 2020, according to the Wall Street Journal?
I think this is just their opinion. I don't know if Wall Street Journal actually had their own answer to this, but.
Well, it depends on how you're looking at it.
Yeah, not providing. I mean, all of these were issues. I thought the Wall Street Journal piece was more of a hit piece. As I said, editorial, we don't really comment on that. We assume you all read that. I thought it was a hit piece. There was some, but look at these numbers. Go to the chart, Joseph. You can't, I don't care who you are, whether you're SBA or you're Lance Sexton International Manufacturing Inc. or Wells Fargo. You have that type of growth, you're going to have issues. That's the point.
Well, the magnitude of the programs that were implemented during the pandemic, the speed with which they were implemented, it's almost impossible for SBA not to have had some mistakes, not to have some fraud, and not to have some customer service issues, Bob. I mean, we did 20 years worth of SBA lending in 1 year. How could you not have a few issues going through that?
I don't know who Mark Aurelius is, but we did take a look at the comments. I think this is a great astute comment. He says, hey, yeah, look, anybody can go back with 2020. But I love how he capitalizes. In particular, they were attempting to pump out funds that almost everyone was saying in the spring of 2020 that we had to get this done. Lance, can you imagine if PPP was now what restaurant revitalization is, where what would our economy look like today if we didn't have PPP 1.0 and 2.0?
Well, and I think, I take my hat off to all of my fellow participant lenders, and I take my hat off to SBA for understanding that the way to get money to small businesses efficiently is using lending institutions throughout the country, using community banks, using larger banks, using fintechs to get money to small businesses. And can you only imagine if SBA had to administer PPP much the same way they've administered?
Whoever made the decision said, no, let's get the banks involved. Let's do this. That was a smart decision. Yeah. And yes, there were things that went wrong. Things are going to go wrong. And I agree with this comment, to blame middle management of these government agencies for only doing their best at delivering on what they're powerful on all sides are telling them to do. And those are the worker bees and the people that got this done. You can talk about government bureaucrats, but the government bureaucrats, look, they care about our country. They care about Main Street. They care about employees. They care, whether you're a banker or a government employee or a priest. I mean, you still have the same type of commitment to do the right thing. Anyway, good job. Let's switch gears. I love this story, Katie. Put up his mugshot. He doesn't look very happy.
We don't have it for this one. We have it for the others.
Go ahead. Tell what did a Mr. Let's see, which one are we talking about? Mr. Carter? Go ahead, tell him about Mr. Carter.
Yeah, so this is a farm equipment CEO who's based in Georgia. And I don't know, it's one of those stories where it's a little bit sad. He's back in 2015.
Oh, they're all sad, yeah.
his company began having some financial difficulties, and so he turned around and sold about 88 pieces of farming equipment to try to keep it up, to try to make payroll and things like that. Unfortunately, at the time, he also did that in a little bit of a sneaky way. He hid that from his company's trust, and also hid information from creditors and things like that. He also went ahead and forged $1.2 million in retail contracts to make it look as though his company had some more funds. Unfortunately, none of that worked, and he continued to have financial trouble. So what he started doing is he started altering financial records, and over a period of about 6 months, he altered a significant portion of those records. And then he turned around and used those records to apply for $5 million in SBA loans and opened a $625,000 line of credit. And of course, that was caught, and definitely is a problem. It's sad that his company wasn't doing well. It's sad that he wanted to use this for payroll and things like that, but you have to do it above the books. You have to do it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is not a victimless crime. There are shareholders of the institution that are going to get hurt, as well as U.S. taxpayers. So
Absolutely.
White collar crime is just as serious as other one. All right, let's go to the next one. This one, Mr. Yeah, he doesn't look very happy.
Right.
Why doesn't he look happy, Katie?
Yeah, so this is David Savinley. He's the first person in the nation who was arrested for defrauding PPP.
Oh, I didn't know he was the first one.
Yeah, he was actually the first, and it's kind of a dramatic story too. He applied for a little over $438,000 in PPP loans, claiming he had dozens of employees who worked at 3 different restaurants in Rhode Island. While looking into it further, 2 of the restaurants were not open prior to the start of the pandemic, so it was brand new restaurants that should not have been able to apply in the first place. And the third one, Stanley didn't even have any connection with that business. He just listed some random restaurant, I think, and that's about it. So he was approved for funds, and it was shortly after discovered that this was fraudulent. When they discovered it was fraudulent, Stanley went to court, and somehow in that process, at some point, he cut his electronic monitoring bracelet off of his foot and fled. He took his car, and eventually, because he didn't want to be caught, faked his own death, taking it to a beach in Massachusetts and leaving it with the key in the ignition and a suicide note. And it was believed that he was dead for quite a while until July 23rd, 2020, when he was discovered alive in Georgia using fake plates and fake ID. Yeah. And he just recently, here about a month or so ago, just pled guilty to the PPP fraud.
Hey, Bob.
Seems to be a tough reaction, Lance. Go ahead.
I'm looking behind me to see if there's a car of a PPP borrower somewhere on the beach. No, I'm just teasing.
The Lamborghini parade.
The Lamborghini's parked behind the palm tree.
And finally, our third story is Mr. Fain. If I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, he starred in 9 episodes of Love and Hip Hop. Sorry, not my demographics. What did Maurice do?
Yeah, so he's a reality TV star, and I believe he's a rapper. To be honest, I don't know. I haven't really been following him. It's not really my style either. But he's started his business and claims on his PPP application that he had 107 employees and an average monthly payroll of $1.4 million. I'm not sure exactly how much money he was asking. I think around $1.5 million in a PPP loan that he wanted to cover that. Unfortunately, shortly after that funds were dispersed, he turns around and uses basically all of the funds from that PPP loan to purchase luxury jewelry for himself and possibly someone else. I'm not sure, but that includes things like a Rolex, a diamond bracelet, a 5.7 carat diamond ring, and then he got quite a bit of cash as well and stocked that up and hid it throughout his house.
Lance, I don't know about you, but if you propose with a 5.7 carat ring and 30 days later the feds come and rip it off your fiance's hand, I would imagine that is not a good thing for the relationship.
Not a very good sign, Bob, but I'm just wondering if I can buy the presidential Rolex at an auction somewhere for a reasonable
I'm
price.
sure there's PPPauction.com.
Yeah, it's not funny, guys, but you know, the fraud and
It's not funny. That's why we're all laughing.
The one thing I want to make sure is clear, there's a lot of fraud in PPP, but it's relative to the size of the program. I mean, it's fun to hear. My favorite part is Fraud Friday. I love hearing these stories about guys like this rapper. By the way, Katie, I do love rap music, by the way. No, just teasing. But I love hearing these stories of this, and I want every SBA participant lender, do not get excited if you find some fraud in PPP lending.
And this time around, they're on it. They're recouping these funds, unlike the first time around, the TARP programs, the funds were long gone. Here they're recouping them, and there are sensational headlines, but hopefully all this bad publicity, and I'm sure it will impact, reinforce good SBA citizenship on SBA 2.0.
I agree 100%, Bob, and I do agree with you. If he gave a 5.7 carat ring to his fiance and it got taken away shortly thereafter, it probably didn't go over real well.
Hey, I have some sad news. This is Katie's last day. She gave her notice. Katie, I guess we'll have to disband the Katie Roach fan club. I'm sorry to see you go. She came in as an intern. Katie worked for what, 2 years? I only met her once in Washington, D.C. But we got to follow her through engagement and wedding cancelizations due to COVID, and then moving up to Seattle in the middle of COVID. Anyway, Katie, you want to say anything to your fan club?
Yeah, I just want to say it's been amazing working with you, and you've been a great mentor, Bob. And even Lance, you've been great at helping me walk through. I really started this job not even really knowing what SBA was. And now not only do I have a decent understanding of the program, but I also know a lot of how small businesses work, the things they need to look into, how they finance those things. It's been really eye-opening, and it's a lot of great information that I'm going to take with me, and it's just really been a great experience for me.
Well, you've been great. Definitely the things I like in terms of the younger generation: show up on time, do what you say. You always did that, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck. You are an amazing talent, and you are going to succeed no matter what you do. Real quick, just back up, we got a little bit of time. Tell me more about your major, and because that's unique, and I don't think a lot of people know about that. And why did you choose to study that?
Yeah, so for those who don't really know me as well, I started out getting a paralegal degree and did that for about a year. But the original plan was always to go ahead and go on and get my bachelor's degree. And at the time, I didn't really know totally what I wanted to do. I really liked philosophy. I really liked political science. Wasn't quite sure if I wanted to go to law school at the time. I ended up falling back on peace and conflict studies, which is starting to get a little more traction. It's a not super popular degree, but what it does is it combines a lot of those majors into one, where it's really focusing on conflict resolution and things like that. So it's really a broad degree that applies to a lot of things.
Well, as an employer, I certainly had no issues with it because it taught you how to write and taught you how to think. So congratulations. Well, Katie, we're going to miss you. Please let us know where you land. I know the future's very bright for you. And with that, thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great weekend. Bye, Katie. Hope to see you soon.
Bye.